Hi there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Cloud-Based Mayhem. I have an outrageous story for you today and conversation with Gordon Boettger. If you don't know his name, you will. He broke the record recently in a sailplane, going farther than anybody ever has, although you'll hear why it wasn't a world record, the way they count things with declared distances and points and that kind of thing. But you'll hear about all that in the show. But I was sent an article sometime in late June about a gentleman who had flown for 17 hours, flew all night with night vision goggles in wave, chasing the big monster in a sailplane with a copilot up and down the Sierras. And I read the article and went, oh my God, I got to get this guy on the show. So this is it. We've been trying to get together for the last couple months. Finally did. Had an outrageous talk and a lot of fun with this. Gordon is a commercial pilot for FedEx, flies all over the world. He is awesome to follow on Instagram. So you check him out. It's GrbOettger, Boettger. He's been flying his whole life, came out of the Navy. He's been flying sailplanes since he was a kid. And these days just almost exclusively chases wave. He chases the monster in the Sierras. So we talk about a lot of flying and his history and photography and a bunch of the stuff that he's really passionate about. But eventually we get to his amazing flight. Stays up in the air, like I said, 17 hours, flies all night, does it with night vision goggles, has a very, very special sailplane. There's only 4 of these in the world that was really built for exactly this kind of mission. So he's way into it. He is wild. We had an outrageous time talking about this. I think I've just said that now 3 times, but it's the only way to describe it. And one correction is he mentions a few times IGC. Of course, we all know what an IGC file is, but what he meant in that capacity was the FAI. So he's talking about how to submit records and governing body, but that's all pretty obvious. We were both having a little cocktail when we were recording this, and we were so excited neither one of us caught it. So enjoy this, I'm not going to say it again, but crazy conversation with an exceptional pilot, Gordon Boettger. Cheers. Gordon, we've been chatting here for a bit, but welcome to the Mayhem, and I'm really excited to talk about this insane flight you did. I don't remember how this flew over my desk one day in the last couple months. I know this was June 19th when you did it, but I read the article and went, my God, I got to talk to this guy. And so we will get there, but let's just tease our listeners here a little bit and get into. I'd love to hear more about your history. I know you fly big jets for FedEx. You've been doing that for a long time. You mentioned you were in the Navy to begin with, but how did you get to this point where you can fly these sailplanes so well? Let's and take your time, but let's get us up to speed.
Well, it all kind of started as a kid. My dad, he and my mother immigrated from Germany, and back in the mid '60s, he was in the German Air Force out there. So he was always, I got a very family oriented or aviation oriented family. So my father got me into it. He used to throw me in the back seat of these gliders down in the Mojave Desert when I was a kid, and I kind of took to it. And my mom worked for Flying Tigers at the time, and I used to be able to do some non-rev flights sometimes in the cockpit. And I always thought, man, this is a pretty cool lifestyle. These guys are living flying all over the world and just having a good time, making decent money, a lot of time off. And I go, I think this is something I might want to do. So, my dad introduced me to soaring at the age of 13, and I took to that down in Southern California. There was actually a place down in Los Alamitos at the military base that had a soaring program. So I got involved with that at age 13, and then soloed on my 14th birthday. And then
Was your dad military?
Yeah, he was in the German Air Force out there, and then he came out here
Okay.
and got a job with McDonnell Douglas as an engineer with Douglas. But he was a flight instructor, and I grew up doing a lot of surfing, so that was kind of my life. And I knew I had to, eventually do something that was going to be a little more serious. But the glider stuff, I just got hooked on, and just like in the
Hmm.
paragliding world, you just you kind of what's next, and so I soloed on my 14th birthday, and then started getting into this cross country stuff in old Schweitzer 126 glider, which is kind of a low performance, probably the 24-to-1 glide ratio type glider. But I started getting into the cross country thing as a kid, and then I started going out to the desert every single weekend, and that was my life. Every weekend I go out to the desert, sleep in my buddy's back, in the back of his Toyota pickup truck, and we just fly gliders all weekend long, and then drive back and get back to school Monday morning. So that was my life, and then that helped me actually get into the military, the flying background. I started with power at age 15 and soloed on my 16th birthday with the power planes, but the engine stuff didn't intrigue me because it was after flying gliders, it's pretty boring, having a
Right.
motor hanging out there. So I kind of stuck with the glider stuff, and really started stretching my distances and going after these soaring badges, that the Soaring Society of America has, and started acquiring all those, and then I joined the military. So I joined the Navy, went off to Pensacola, flight training, 2 years of flight training, and then spent 6 years active duty flying off of two different aircraft carriers, and did my time and punched out of there, and then got a job with FedEx at age 28, and then I've been doing that for about
What were
20
you flying off the carriers? What was your
E2
rig?
Hawkeyes.
Okay.
Basically a carrier based AWACS turboprop airplane. So yeah, I did my time there, and then in the
Did
Navy,
you
and then
enjoy it?
the flying part, the flying stuff on off the boat was really challenging. That part was fun, but I didn't enjoy life sitting on a big gray thing with
Mm,
5,000 dudes, for 6 months. That got old.
I bet.
But I mean, it was a stepping stone to get the airlines because I needed that flight time, and I didn't have the money to pay for that myself in the civilian world. So
It's
I
a
had
great
to
way to get hours,
use the
right?
military, and it's you serve your country, and that all that kind of jazz. But that was good. That was all good, and got my experience. I'm glad I did it. You grow up pretty quickly doing it, and it's funny looking back now. You see these kids that were my age, 22 years old, flying off these boats, and you're going, oh my God, these kids are letting these kids fly these airplanes off of carriers, So I'm kind of aging myself. I'm like the old man now, but the
You mean
glider.
it's not all Top Gun? It's not
Yeah,
that
that's right.
exciting?
That's right. Yeah, I'm not the Tom Cruise looking guy, that's for sure. But it's funny during the Navy, during my time in the Navy, I was still always, I still wanted to really get into the sailplane stuff, the distance stuff, and obviously, with the family and all that, I just didn't have the time to do everything I wanted to do. So the glider stuff was kind of put on hold, and then we've been up here in the Minden area for 21 or about 21 years now. So once we got
So
back up
was that
here,
immediately post Navy? Has that
it
been
was
kind of
yeah, it was
home
about two
since?
years after 2 years after I got out of the Navy.
Okay.
I bailed
Oh,
out of
okay.
San Diego. I was living down in San Diego, and I was flying down to Warner Springs down in the hills east of San Diego, and the soaring's okay, but you can't really get out and do the big stuff like you can here. It's not the big stuff. But once I moved up here, then I started getting really serious about doing big wave flights, and that's what I knew I was always limited distance wise with thermal flights because we're relying on the heating, and with mountain wave, it's just a whole different animal, and it's super good
I,
here, both thermals and wave.
I mean, was the wave flying? And I mean, because this is something really beyond the stretch that, hang gliders can touch it, but the really,
Yeah,
I flew in wave in the Alps during the 2015 X Alps, and it's pretty rowdy for us.
it,
That's a lot of wind. But was this something that was early on? Was it on your radar from the 14, or was this something
yeah,
you'd
it
slowly I
was.
mean,
It, it,
so
you
you
know, it,
guys
it,
just in your world, this is what you guys do.
yeah. I mean, wave is overall. Wave is very. It's not popular with most. I would say probably 90% of the sailplane pilots because they don't want to deal with the
Oh,
elements. They don't want to deal with the winds. They don't want to deal with the cold, the icing, the freezing, and just the turbulence and all the other crazy stuff that goes along with it. I mean, there's a price to pay for these distances. You got to be willing to deal with that kind of to deal with those
Okay.
risks. And I mean, yeah, the risks are there, and then and everything's kind of heightened, and you got to be on your A game. But I think it can be safely done. But backing up to when it all started, I started flying wave at probably age 15 and 16. I mean, when I was
Really?
16, I was at, I think 16 or 17. I went up in the Owens Valley. I was up, above Lone Pine at 34,000 feet. 16-year-old kid.
Wow.
Freezing
No
my ass off.
way.
Yeah. So
Wow.
it
So
was pretty
these are
wild.
not pressurized. Talk
No.
about the. I mean, we got a long way to come up to where you are now, but even back then, what equipment when you're 16 flying at 34 grand? What equipment are you using? Are you
Um,
just on bottled
yeah,
oxygen
you're
like we
just
are when
bottle. I
we're
mean,
paragliding? Okay.
yeah, I mean, nowadays we have the EDS regulators, but back then you either had a constant flow system or you had a pressure demand regulator, the old military type A14
Yep.
regulator. And at the time, I had an A14 regulator, and those drain you of O2 as well as the constant flow system. So back then, I'm flying with an A14 regulator. No, you're not pressurized or heated, and they had back in the 50s they had a big Sierra Wave project, and with that was kind of a government sponsored type project that they did for
Like
several
a
winters.
per land type of thing.
Yeah, and so they learned a lot because that was all done at Bishop. So they learned a lot about rotor turbulence, and all this other wacky stuff that goes on with wave. And, they ended up writing books about it. And so wave has been, it's been something, an area that people have touched, I think, but not really seriously gotten into. Because, like I said, a lot of people don't like dealing with it. I mean, I'll go to the Minden airport and you'll see 30 gliders tied out in the summertime. In the wintertime, nothing, they're like, we're done. Gliders are in the box, see you in spring. And,
Mm,
I'm like, hey, if the air is going up vertically, use it, and as long as you can safely do it and, take advantage of it. And I've always been intrigued with the wave because I think all the records from here on out are going to be done in wave.
sure.
They have to be because you can't do that with the limited length of day you have in thermals as you guys know. So
When you were 16 flying at 34 grand, are you flying in triple sleeping bag? How are you staying warm? It's not
no,
You're not in a
I
pressurized
just
cockpit and all that,
well,
right?
back then we had the moon boots, so yeah, we had those big goofy moon boots.
Yes.
So you had the moon boots, and you're freezing your ass off,
Just
because
freezing.
and I
Yeah.
mean at that age you don't. You're not doing the research to find out what the proper gear is. You're learning the hard way. You're coming back and your
Yeah.
fingers and feet are about to fall off, and yeah, and you go, why am I doing this? But the canopy's icing up, and the guy said, oh, you got to use alcohol and spray it on the canopy, and so I'm shooting the canopy, and the whole thing's icing up, and that didn't do anything. And then people say, so there's a lot of goofy stuff, but yeah, it was pretty spooky that one day, and that was actually the day after my friend Bob Harris broke the world altitude record. He got up to 49,009 feet unpressurized. So
Oh,
that was
unpressurized.
yeah, that was ballsy.
Oh
To me,
my
that's
God.
like Chuck Yeager type stuff. That's old, that's old school. He just did it
Full on
as
Chuck
kind of a
Yeager
standard
stuff.
standard glider, and went up there and unpressurized. And a friend of mine that I grew up with, the guy I used to go up flying with, he was like 19 or 20 at the time. He got up to a little over 40,000 feet, and he got bent that day. And so he was in the Marine Corps, and the following day he ends up, we crashed out in the back of his Toyota truck. And so we celebrated because Bob Harris got the world altitude record. My buddy Howard Foote, he got a little over 40,000 feet. So we wake up in the morning, we're sleeping in sleeping bags in the back of his truck, and he goes, man, I feel like shit. I go, what's going on? He goes, I don't know. And I go, dude, the wave's working. We got to fly. He goes, I can't. He goes, I got to drive back down to El Toro where he was stationed. He drives down to El Toro, barely makes it down there, and he checks in the medical and like, what were you doing? Oh, I flew up to 40,000 feet, and he goes, so they put him in a chamber down in San Diego, and he got
Hape?
bent big time. So
Was that
he
was
got
that would
it.
that have been Hape
No,
or
he got
Haze?
an aerial embolism. So he got the nitrogen, the bubbles in the bloodstream.
Yeah.
So
Whoa.
he got
Diving in
that
reverse.
this is a whole nother story, but at the time, this could be a whole nother podcast type thing. But at the time, he was trying to get into the Marine Corps to fly. He was an enlisted guy. He knew the general of the base, General Bloomer. was going to help him get in the flight program. Well, about 6 months after he got bent, he submits his paperwork to get in the flight program. He's got to do this medical thing, eval, and they go, "You can't fly. You've had the bends." So he goes back to General Bloomer, says, "Hey, General, you got to fix this. You're a general, by the way, you know." And the general says, "Hey, I can't do anything about this." What does he do? About a year later, he steals an A4 jet out of El Toro. It flies it out over freaking Southern California. Yep. And
What?
lands it back at Del Toro and gets, military. It was a 4th of July weekend. He took off at midnight, dark runway, and he just jumped in a jet, and it was an OA4. It had an internal APU, and then started it up, and then blasted off, and then came back, and he got thrown into brig, and it ended up in the papers and all
So
that
there
stuff.
is some Top Gun shit going on.
Oh yeah.
That
So
is
anyway,
awesome.
yeah. So anyway, Buddy Foot, yeah, he got hammered for that, but yeah. So fast forward, when I moved up to Minden, I just got, I go, hey, I gotta get into this whole wave thing, and at the time I was flying an old 1971 Kestrel, which is probably a, it's probably a 42-to-1 glide ratio, an old wing, but still it could do something. And anyway, I had big bottles in that and started doing some big flights in that. And I finally did several 2,000 kilometer flights in that. So that got quite a bit of publicity,
You went 2000K thermaling, not wave.
No, that was in wave
That was in wave.
in the
Okay.
Kestrel. Yeah. So,
Okay. Wow.
I'd
That's
say,
incredible.
yeah. So
how many laps? How many times up and down is that?
well, that was a 3 turn point. So I got a few records out of that. So that was a 3 turn point distance record. And I'm not quite sure how you guys have your record categorized, but we can have a 3 turn point distance record where we can pre-declare 3 turn points.
Yeah.
And they have to be at least 10 kilometers apart. So we can go up and down what we call yo-yo, up and down the Owens Valley. And we have straight out distance records. So I have one that I almost made it to Rapid City, South Dakota on a downwind flight and wave. So
How far is that?
That was probably roughly 800 statute, maybe.
Jeez. And that was a declared goal kind of flight. Just blown
I
away?
declared it, but I didn't reach the goal. The goal was Rapid
Oh.
City. I landed just outside of Devil's Tower there, at that airport.
Amazing.
So, but
God.
what's happening with all these flights is, I'm going above 18,000 feet. I'm going up into Class A airspace. So I have some letter agreements established with Oakland, Salt Lake, Denver Center, and Seattle Center to go up high. So what I do
Is that something you can just declare on the day? Do you let them
No,
know day of
they
or day before?
they want you to call the day before. You call this control center supervisor, say I'm that idiot with the glider that's gonna try to go up high and get in everyone's way and go downwind.
Are you flying with FLARM? What are you flying with?
Yeah, I do have
jets?
FLARM, but I'm ADSB out and in with transponder. But glider to glider, it's all the FLARM stuff is really effective. So yeah, so I started getting into this the wave stuff here, and things started kind of getting bigger and bigger. And then I got a duo discus glider, which is a non-flapped Champerth glider, probably I don't know, 44-to-1 glide ratio, very low wing loading, and kind of limited. I would say it's a very good cross country trainer, but I started banging out some big records in that, and then got several flights over 2,000 kilometers in that, and then I realized, okay, I'm kind of tapped out with this thing. I can't go any further. It was equipped with lights. I was able to legally fly at night, which is okay, but to do like an overnight flight, it's a whole different animal, and then
talk about real quickly, just for those who paragliders. Of course, we understand the concept of wave, but I don't know how much wind do you need to create wave, and what are you looking for in the forecast when you're doing these 2,000 Ks, and how many years ago was that? Was that a decade?
for the
when
2000.
you're starting doing in the Kestrel and the
Yeah, that was probably 20 years ago. I mean, I
okay.
started getting some big flights, and
What is it? What do you need to what for that to set up, and what is it like launching in that kind of lee?
so what
Describe
we're
how that
basically looking for
works.
is we're basically looking for, the key months for for wave. I mean, obviously all winter long, because anytime you have a low pressure system that pumps through. So I'm looking at kind of the 500 millibar charts, which is kind of at the 18,000 foot level, to kind of see where the jet streams line up with the jet axis, and see what kind of flow that system that's bringing us. And it's for the Sierra, it's all going to be prefrontal type wave. So we're looking at a southwesterly type flow. And so when that jet stream starts kind of dipping south, that's when it's like, okay, it's like the buoy readouts, it's like, oh man, the buoys are starting, it's starting. So you gotta start watching this stuff.
The
And
monster's
nowadays
coming.
with, yeah, it's like, here we go. So several days out, I use an app called SkySight. I don't know, do you guys use SkySight?
Yeah, yeah, we use it a
That's
lot. Yeah,
phenomenal. Yeah. So,
Scutters.
um,
Yeah,
yeah, Matthew's awesome. So SkySat runs 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And I go, Matthew, you got to run these models all night for me now because I'm doing these nighttime things. He goes, no worries, mate. And you'll get the thing going all night. So I download all the stuff. And SkySat's been super, super good. And I mean, I honestly have to say, SkySight's probably changed soaring. I don't know how it has been for the paragliding world, but the accuracy and detail of wave, because typically we fly wave, if you can use markers, like rotor clouds or lenticulars, that's your key. But the SkySight, if we're flying in blue wave, where there are no cloud markers, then you can download all the HER data, HR models for all the
yeah.
vertical velocity
Day of.
for the day of, and then have it on your phone and just basically flying that magenta area of lift, and it is so accurate. I'm not saying 100% of the time, but it allows you to fly so much further, and I think more aggressively, because you can go, okay, there's a dead zone right here. I'm going to jam down because down near Mammoth, it's going off again, or Lee Vining, So according to SkySight,
I'm gonna point it, and we're gonna get it.
yeah,
We're gonna fly through this kind of less
oh yeah,
lifty area
yeah,
fast. We're gonna punch
yep.
it.
And
We'll get there.
yeah, because I did a lot of these big flights when I didn't have that, and so you're kind of blindly flying
Then you're kind
going,
of like,
you're going,
oh
holy
God,
shit,
hopefully,
and you're just
yeah.
seeing this snow blowing off the peaks, going, oh man, this is if I have to land at Levi, which happened to me once, and that's about as close to death I thought I was going to get. I mean, that was scary. I mean, I'd never seen
Hold on, we got to
wind
hear
that
this
fast.
one.
Well,
Okay, take us through it. What happened?
well, that was in the old Kestrel, so this is before SkySight. I blast out of Minden 5 in the morning, and I get up to 24,000 feet or whatever, and I'm hauling ass south, and everything's good, and winds aloft are cranking, so I'm running down towards Inyo, south end of the Sierra, and I get a beam, Mammoth. And Mammoth and that whole area gets kind of goofy with wave, and a lot of times there's some dead areas.
Because of the pass, because of the low
Yep,
area there. I
yeah,
mean,
yep,
we get
just
hammered in that too.
yeah, the
Obviously, we wouldn't
terrain
be
just
flying in that kind of wind, but
the
yeah.
terrain gets goofy. Owens Valley is spot on. It's almost like a no brainer there down there. But I was heading south, and I remember looking out, and I was at 24, 26,000 feet, looking at the tops of these, like Mount Tom and these big peaks. I'm going, holy shit, it's blowing. I mean, you see the snow just blowing like miles off the peaks, and, Mono Lake was just going off, just white capped. And so I get down south, down the Indian Current, and come back north, and I'm coming north out of the Owens Valley, and I'm at 28,000 feet near, shit, I'm like near Mount Tom, and I'm at
Yep.
28,000 feet, and I make a run, and I noticed the clouds, the lenticulars had pushed way east, and it was a completely different look of sky like 2 hours later. And I went, this is strange. So and it wasn't really marked. So I went to where the lift was when I came south. I flew that same line coming north, and my
And
variometer
now
was
it's just
pegged. It
dumping.
was like I was probably sinking 2,000 feet a minute. I went from 28,000 feet at
Whoa.
Mount Tom near, south of Mammoth, to being at Lee Vining at 3,000 AGL, and just, and the
So hold
whole
on.
mono.
You're too far west. You're in
Yeah.
the dump.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that it's what happened is that the winds had strengthened so much. The jet had pushed south so quickly, and I think the winds just got so hellaciously strong. There's a point where they're too strong. What
Okay.
it did is it flattened out that wavelength. So instead of that big sharp
Yep.
propagation, right 5 miles east of the spine of the mountains, it was like the wave was way east of Mono
20,
Lake. It
30.
was insane. It was like
Oh,
15
wow. It's
miles
way over
downwind.
there.
And so,
Okay.
and I'm not going to go there because there's no place to land, and surface winds were, the whole Mono Lake was
Hellacious.
just, just foamed up. So I'm at
Ooh.
3,000 feet AGL, and I'm looking at Lee Vining. That's my only landing option other than maybe a field on the edge of, next to Mono Lake or something. And I went, holy shit. And I think the only time I ever wish I was in a car or on the ground, just not in a plane. And, I mean, the wind, it's a
Can
90
you
degree
can you
crosswind.
land in that much wind?
Not
Are you
really.
just gonna flop? Are you just gonna flop
Well,
over or
that's the
something?
problem. It's, you're a test pilot now. And I remember going, shit, how am I going to deal with this? 'Cause I'm landing in a 90 degree crosswind. It must have been blowing 40, 50 knots. Gus, it was just nuts. And so I set up and I'm crabbing, pointing at the runway. And then I just, you're just downwind of this 12,000 foot peaks and you just don't know what you're going to get into with turbulence and all this other crap. And so I'm at about 2,000
Holy
ADL
shit.
now. I'm downwind, super high. And all of a sudden, I'm adding some knottage, because I'm adding some speed because you just don't know what you're going to hit. And so suddenly I'm on downwind at about 2,000 AGL, and the airspeed, the whole bottom drops out. Just the whole plane just drops. My legs, which are hanging out underneath this instrument panel, rip through the just rip the panel out of the console. So the console gets
Oh
shoved up into the
God.
stick, and so it's blocking the stick. And I just throw the freaking panel forward and shove the stick over, and my airspeed just went to like zero. And I went, holy shit, here we go. And I thought I was going to die. And so I just dumped the nose over and just waited. And I probably lost, 1,000 feet in the whole thing, just get my airspeed back. I got my airspeed back and I just went, holy shit. And I just pointed for the runway because there's boulders all around the airport property there. So, you're not going to survive that. So all I wanted to do was get that glider in the confines of the airport. I didn't give a shit if it was going to roll up in a ball or what. I just wanted to get it over the fence line, into the property. And so I did that, and I'm hauling ass now. I got my airspeed back and turn on the final, get over the fence, and now I've got clipping along at a pretty good ground speed. And there's only so much wing down you can put into a crosswind, so I landed kind of at a crab, with my wing down, and then I landed on the runway, and then at about 20, 30, 30 knots airspeed, I couldn't keep the glider lined up with the runway because of the crosswind, so it just went off into the sagebrush and then came to a stop. And then I'm like, holy shit. And so I'm like,
Was there
okay, now
anybody
what? And so
there? Did
no
anybody
one
see
there. It's
it?
like, no, it's a ghost town. So,
God.
so I'm sitting in the glider. And so so I've got my big expedition suit, buddy, my climbed K2, he gave me a suit. So I was wearing that. So you got all this shit in the cockpit. You're just jammed up on this thing. So I'm trying to as I'm trying to undo all this stuff, the whole glider picks up off the ground
Oh
with
God.
because of the crosswind, because the right wing was the wings were semi-level because they're resting on the sagebrush, but it picked up just enough, like 3 or 4 feet off the ground, and slid downwind, then settled down again. I went, holy shit, it's going to flip me over with this thing in it. And then
Yeah.
that's what's going to kill me. So I just opened the canopy, chucked it up, and then held onto it and was able to climb out and keep it from getting ripped out of my hands. And I ran to the upwind side of the wing, and then I just got on top of the wing, and then the upwind side just kind of laid on it. And then I just remember just getting pelted with just gravel. It was blowing that hard. And then about 10 minutes later,
God.
and I'm thinking, what am I going to do here? Because there's no one
Yeah.
around. I mean, there's
You don't
no
have any
one.
options.
No one's around. So I go, at some point, I'm going to have to let go of this thing, and the glider's gone. It's toast. So about 10 minutes later, this truck comes up, and it's this guy, Dennis. He owns the mobile station down there at Lee Vining, right? And he's got a Cessna, like a 180 or something in the hangar. So he comes up, and we could barely hear each other because the wind's blowing so loud. We're screaming. I'm like, yeah, I need to get a car on the upwind side of this wing so it doesn't flip over. So he goes, okay, I'll
Just
get the
tie
big
it
truck. And
down.
so yeah, so Dennis gets all these Mexican guys, and they come down with, it's like a watering truck or something like that, and they block the upwind side of the glider, and then we kind of like, okay, now let's get our wits together. So we got like 6 guys that lifted up out of the sagebrush, and we just kept the truck on the upwind side of the wings. We pushed it back towards the hangar, and we tied it down behind the hangar on the downwind side, and the wingtips were
Man,
hanging out
you're
in the
lucky
wind.
those guys
Fucking,
were around.
oh shit! So I go,
Oh,
how did you see me? He goes, I didn't see. He goes, one of my cooks was standing at the window overlooking, the Mono Lake, going, "Hey, boss, look at the fucking wind is blowing." So it was just, I mean, it was like the middle Pacific. The whole Mono Lake was just a sea of foam, Then he saw the glider, and he goes,
jeez.
"Hey, boss, look an airplane." And Dennis went, "Holy shit, that guy's going to be in trouble." And so that's when they got in the truck. Luckily, they saw me. So that day,
Wow.
semis rolled over. I mean, trees were blown down, and it was
The,
hell. But
these days with things like SkySight and being able to tap, if you got, I'm assuming
yeah,
sometimes you have cell cut. What do you have up in the when you're really high? You're not getting cell anymore, are you?
no, no, not really. I
We
do
start to
like,
lose it at 17, 18. I don't know
yeah,
what you guys do.
yeah.
You just get
You're
too
right.
far above the
Yeah,
towers.
we do. It's kind of in and out. I've got a Garmin InReach, so I can text with the InReach, and then I also have a
Ah,
sat phone. So I've got
oh,
on the downwind flights, I've got the sat phone capability, and I'll stay in touch with a buddy of mine who's a retired meteorologist, a glider guy too, because he's got to give me weather updates. Like when I launch out of here, I get up to 28,000 feet, and then I go downwind. I got to stay clear of the Fallon restricted airspace. So I head out along the ranges, basically heading out towards the Rubies. And so
yeah.
once I get to the
Oh, really?
Rubies, yeah, I'm talking to Salt Lake then, and Rubies just generate monster wave. So if I get the Rubies and I can get a big climb out of there, and then make a run towards Logan, Utah, out towards Bear Lake, and then Bear Lake, that whole range just west of Bear Lake generates big wave, and then climb up there, and then go off to the Wind Rivers, and then the Bighorns, and then shit. It's so
Jeez, that's insane, man. That's
that
insane.
that's
Oh
all.
my God. So, but when you're back to this near death thing, when it was obviously really scary, that's 20 years ago. These days, can you just totally avoid that? Or are you still taking that kind of risk? I mean, is that something that had you had what you have now, technology wise, SkySight, would you have known that? Would you have known not to
Yeah,
go there? I mean, it
I
still
think
seems like it's
SkySight will show that. They'll
okay.
I think SkySight's, yeah. I mean, SkySight will show that. And nowadays, a lot of guys go, "Well, I'm not going to take off today because the forecast for the winds to be, gusting to 40, 50 knots." I go, "Well, if you if you base it off, if you just don't fly every time because it's the forecast is going to it may or may not be that. I don't know. But I said
Yeah.
if I just didn't fly every time because the forecast was going to be gusty and it was uncomfortable, you'd never fly. So as long as you have
Yeah.
alternates, like something that's into the wind, whether it's Carson or going downwind and landing in Hawthorne or something, as long as you have some bailout points, and then you have options. But
You said something interesting early on that I don't know that I understand. You said usually it's winter because you're looking for the lows and they come through with the southeast.
Southwest,
What I don't sorry southwest.
yeah, yeah,
The, so you've got your anticyclonic uh winds, and so you're flying frontal on that, but is that long enough for you? I mean, usually when I think of a low, it's coming through pretty fast as opposed to, like a really sustained high pressure westerly, I would think would be more. Well, the flight you did was in June. Was that a big low or was
no,
that
that was that was a very unusual situation because to have a low come down this far, I mean, getting up a low hitting Seattle or Washington in the summer, that happens, but for it to reach down this
yeah.
deep, this far south, very unusual.
Okay.
But it's a really good question you pose because there are times where lows are the trough is too deep and it's too rapid a front. I'm not saying you won't get wave. You'll get wave, but just a very short period of time. So you go, okay, what can I do with that? Is there anything? Can
Mm,
I do a big flight? So you might just pass on it or just go monkey around. And I've done flights like that where it's just my last flight was just a really mediocre low. It's just like, yeah, it's normally I wouldn't fly, but I still banged out like 1,500 kilometers, on
Mm.
that day. So, and I think
So
once again,
as long as you don't get jaded and you're just chasing a 3,000K, you can go out on those shorter, those
yeah,
deeper
yeah,
troughs and still fly wave and have fun. But it's going to go through too fast to break any records. Is that right? Do
yeah.
I have that? Do I
Eh,
understand that right? Okay.
You're right, because I mean, they're the classic situation is to get a prolonged, like a really kind of a shallow low that comes in and just feeds energy for like 2 days, and we get that maybe once or twice a year. So for me
What
to
about these? What about, like last winter when we had just what did California get? 11 atmospheric
yeah.
rivers. Does that work? Are those good, or those are
No, that
too
so
nasty,
see, those end up getting too wet
too
because
wet?
it's just too much moisture, and it's just, yeah. Once you know once they have, there's a point where they have so much energy and so much moisture in them, they just cross the Sierras, and they end up, a lot of the times these lows that we're flying, these prefrontal systems, the whole west side of the Sierras just getting hammered, and you're on the lee side and protected by essentially the Sierras or whatever's holding back that weather. But like last year, there weren't too many flyable days where you could have done anything big because these things were just coming in and just pumping moisture in. And you can't fly in that. Once that low, that jet axis ends up kind of hitting like Minden area and going south, and you're in an area of too much moisture. So that's why
Okay, okay,
looking at the 500 millibar, we call it the 564 line. That kind of marks
gotcha.
the jet axis. So and then
Okay,
once again, sky sight, you go, okay, sky sight showing the moisture pumping through. And sometimes it'll pulse where the wave will shut down here, and you can be down the Owens Valley just banging out turn points, running up and down, and then it'll pulse and then open up here in the afternoon. That's happened with me too, where I sneak back home. But there's a lot of experimenting, and there's still a lot to learn with this stuff, and that's what makes this stuff so fascinating. This, just like with you guys, it never gets boring, because there's always some,
that
you
is
always land, you
fat.
go, what the hell was that all about? That one thermal, or I got low there, why was that cloud wasn't working, what the hell's going on here? And
So
I can't.
I mean I want to talk about that too. But the as I understand it, with you guys with sailplanes, you have a lot more knowledge because it's just been going on a lot longer. But
Yeah,
what we talk about in paragliding is that the amount of stuff to be done in this part of the world is literally
yeah,
mind-boggling
yeah,
because we've barely touched the surface.
right,
Whereas in Europe, our FAI triangles, you were talking about how do we
yeah,
measure our distances? Our FAI triangles, same as yours,
okay, yeah,
those are the bee's knees. That's where you get all the
yeah,
points, and that's what we want to do.
yeah, yeah,
It's a lot more technical and difficult than just going downwind one
right,
way, right? So, coming home is way more sexy. But in Europe, the it'll really be a huge surprise if somebody flies a huge triangle that's not just a little bit bigger than what 50 people have already done.
right, yeah,
There's nothing there is just wow, that's never been done. I mean, in the Alps, most things have been done. They're just
uh-huh,
getting bigger. The gliders are getting better.
yeah,
People are figuring it out. We're flying faster. But like what Othar, or what's his name, the Klaus is doing in
yeah.
sailplanes over the Med. I'm sure for you guys that's just like whoa, that's a big deal. But here in the West, is it the same with you guys? Is there just, if you barely scratch the surface, or are you
I
guys
think
just
so. I
making
mean,
things bigger? Okay, yeah,
no,
that's
I
very
think
cool.
I think the surface is being scratched, especially now with the capability of doing the using the NVGs,
Yeah.
because now it's
Describe
like,
describe what that is. We're going to get to the big flight,
and
but for those who don't know, what you just say.
yeah, so the night vision, the NVGs are the night vision goggles, and like, you're not going to video this thing, but these are what I'm using, and so these are used by the actual this is used by the military. These are the no shit. These are like 18 grand a piece for these things. They're,
Wow.
but it's
I,
it's it's insane. I mean, using these things, and you feel, once you get the experience with them, it's I mean, that's about as close to flying off the boat as possible. When you take off on a pitch black runway. I took my buddy up a few weeks ago, and he's another FedEx guy, and he was just going, "Holy shit!" Because he was sitting in the back, and the first touch and go, because I've got the jet with the glider. He just put the goggles up. He goes, "It's pitch black." He goes, "I can't see." He goes, "I can't see a thing." He just heard the wheel touch down. He goes, "Oh shit, I guess we're on the ground." So the next one, he put the
Really?
goggles down. He goes, "Oh my god, that's insane." We're flying along the ridges.
Really?
Right along the Kingsbury at freaking 11 o'clock at night, and it's pitch black. I go, "Put the goggles up." He goes, "Holy shit, we're dead." I go, "Yeah, it's." So I think with the goggles
Really?
now, with wave and ridge, because ridge will work at night too, and that's where I think you guys. Because when you said you want to talk to me, I'm going, God, we got to figure something out with these paragliders, something to get
Yeah.
these guys to start smash this, like dudes taking off the Appalachians, with NVG's paragliders, and just doing a massive flight and just blowing everyone's mind. And I think that stuff is possible, with you guys.
Hold on.
Um,
I gotta somehow silence all that last bit. I'm the only one that heard that. Wow, really? Oh my God, that's
yeah, I think
amazing. Yeah,
so. I
I don't
keep
think
thinking
that's
how
ever even occurred to us.
because
I don't know why. It would totally work.
I've always been intrigued with the paragliding and the hang gliding stuff, and I see you guys down in the Sierra, and I just go, just you pull up in the thermals, like, man, that's cool. These dudes hanging out there, and I think it's kick ass.
Yeah. The only thing is, of course, is we can't fly in that kind of wind. It would
No,
have to
well, and
be.
that's why
It
I
couldn't
say
be wave.
ridge.
It would have to just be ridge. Yeah, I mean,
So
ridge would
I
have to
think
be
I
great.
think I honestly think something with ridge. If you now with yeah with wave, I've been thinking like constantly about how you guys can do something with wave, but I don't think it's safe.
They
I,
have
I,
done it in
I
hang gliders. I don't know if you saw that. Johnny Duran, a Red Bull athlete, flew in wave in a hang glider down in Australia, and it was pretty wild. I mean, the
and
footage
that's
he got of
mild
it,
wave
and
there.
exactly,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
mild stuff.
I don't know that we could do it.
See,
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. So next, we're going to get to this insane flight, but while we're still back here, the what does taking off look like? How do you get started? How does it work? How do you get going? You're talking about, you were
yeah.
24,000 feet back in this kind of, by today's standards, a
So,
pretty.
the typical scenario with whether you tow or self launch, I can self launch now because I've got the jet that allows me to take off. The jet's very unique. Typically, you're going to either tow up or self launch up to about 3 or 4 thousand AGL, and from Minden, that involves heading west from the airport, 4 or 5 miles, basically towards the Kingsbury grade, and with 395, and then climbing up to about 3 or 4 thousand AGL most of the times, and then getting into the wave right there, working your way up, and then getting into that laminar flow, and then off you go. So, um,
How long does that take?
uh, like on that big flight I did, I probably ran the motor for like 7 minutes. Climbed to about
Really?
3,500 AGL, and then shut it down and got right into the wave, and was able to. I was using SkySight because I had the NVGs. It was dark outside, obviously, so I had the NVGs, no markers, so I went right to where SkySight. There was just a little tiny pocket of where SkySight said there was going to be a wave. I just motored right to it. Boom, there it was. Shut the motor down. Stows in the fuselage, doors closed. Now you're totally clean. And then our flight recorders. That's when our flight recorders will monitor they'll monitor that engine noise, and so it'll say, okay, that's when you're soaring. The beginning of your soaring begins when that motor is shut down. So it's either through vibration or sound. So
And when you cut off the motor, or if you don't have a motor, and you cut off your toe, and you're in the wave, what does it feel like? What is it? How long does it take to get from 3,000
well,
AGL
it
to
depends. Sometimes
20?
you end up. A lot of times you end up in pretty rough air, kind of in the rotor. Sometimes, and yet sometimes working up into that rotor. There's other times where you can climb right up, and it's just you because for minute you'll typically fly through the rotor, so you get the shit knocked out of you flying through the rotor, and then once you punch through that to the west of that or to the windward side, you get into this. It's glass smooth. It's just totally glass smooth, laminar, smooth. I mean, you can
Really?
put a glass of wine on the dash and fly the whole day that way, in that smooth air.
Really?
But if you get down like in the Sierra, because since the Owens Valley, since the Sierra is so high down there, you if you get down to 16 or 17,000 feet in the Owens Valley, you can be hitting rotor already there, and it's the Owens Valley is violent, it just gets
Yeah.
ugly. So I
Yeah,
try to
we
stay up
always we
high.
always say it's one of the most violent places
Oh
on
yeah,
earth,
it's
and it
yeah,
is for you guys
it's
too.
oh yeah. I mean, especially with winds like
Wow.
that, um, yeah, it's there's stuff that you just your palms get sweaty just talking about, but
Well, what kind of so yeah, I'm just trying to give those who don't, I've never been in a sailplane, but
you gotta come out. We gotta do
I've
this.
done, I've got
Oh,
it.
I swear to God,
I will be
it'll
the
blow your mind.
best. I will never go to sleep. I will keep it rocking, buddy. I promise you, I will be the best co-pilot ever. I have got to do this. It sounds amazing.
Yeah,
And those of you
it's
who are listening, when we get to
when
this
you
flight,
see,
it's going to blow your mind. But
yeah, when you feel that, when you see the energy out there, I mean, we're indicating like in the Owens Valley, you're indicating 140 knots, and you're going up 1,500 feet a minute at 20-something thousand feet. It's just like,
holy shit, you got
holy
to be
shit.
kidding me.
No, I
Seriously?
mean, last time I was
So,
down there, I had to stay below 18 because they didn't give me clearance because they were working a bunch of traffic out near Joshua Tree going up, or Barstow, because of thunderstorms. And the guy said, I can't give you your Sage 2, stand by, stand by. And I'm literally at 17.5 at 141 knots indicated, which is my max VNE at that altitude. And I had the spoilers out trying to stay below 18,000 feet. And I'm just going
you're
up
going
like it's,
170 miles an hour. That's
yeah.
unbelievable. So what, when I'm trying to give people a sense for what this feels like when when you're not in the glassy stuff and you're in the, is it when you're in a commercial jet landing at Denver on one of those really, really bad days and thunderstorms everywhere? Is that what it feels like? Does it, or is it worse?
Well,
How much can these planes that you're flying handle?
they're really
What,
strong.
what,
What you don't want to do is fly into that kind of turbulence, like in that. The only turbulence you'll find associated with mountain wave is that rotor, and that rotor will be basically from the ridgetop level, potentially down to the surface. So
okay. Just
once
pure
you get
rotor.
above that ridgetop level, so let's just say from here, in this area from here down to the Owens Valley, if you're above 14, 15,000 feet, you're not going to hit any of that rotor. But if you like fall out of the wave and you have to reestablish yourself into wave, you might fall down below the ridge tops. And that's happened to me plenty of times in those soft spots between like Bridgeport and Bishop, where you're like, oh shit, here we go, and you're 24,000 feet next thing you know, because the sink rates, you can hit some heavy sinking wave too, where you're going down
Sure.
2,000-3,000 feet a minute. So
Oh,
it's as bad going down as it is up. So if you get in the down part of that wave, let's say um, you drift too far downwind, or it's blue wave and the sky sight. Let's say sky sight's wrong. You're fishing around and like all of a sudden, holy shit! Now I'm in 2,000 feet a minute sink. You're like, oh shit! You always work to your upwind side, but you might be end up below that ridgetop level, and that's happening to me where you make a big jump in a dead zone, and now you're 13,000 feet and just getting the
oh,
shit knocked out of you,
really?
and you're working that rotor, trying to get back into the rotor, because that rotor will have up and down, so the air is going. So you'll try to find more up than down, and then reestablish yourself back in west of the rotor into the wave, and then punch to the west and get into
Eh,
that
And
laminar
when you
flow.
when you say you're trying to work it, are you working it like a thermal? Are you
Yeah,
turning? Are
yeah.
you turning
It
circles?
depends on the
Okay.
wind.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes, so um, with our with our computers now, we can see our track over the ground. So if I see myself, obviously, sometimes we're dealing with 60, 70 knot winds at, 14,000 feet or whatever, but you make a turn downwind, you get a jet. And so a lot of times you finagle it, you go, okay, maybe S turns will work, or if you can remain stationary, that's the key. And a lot of times with wave, the wind's strong enough to where you can literally, you'll have a zero ground speed and be going up, 2,000 feet a minute. It's bizarre.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
Whoa.
last time I flew, I had a negative 8 knot ground speed. So I'm climbing, getting pushed backwards. Like, it's so
this
yeah.
this
I
is
mean,
not paragliding
no.
conditions. Holy cow. Oh my, what's your trim speed on that glider?
um. All right. Now we're talking paragliding lingo here. Trim speed.
Well, what's dead stick, dead air. What
Oh,
what what do
okay.
you what's
So
your
we're probably
speed?
about 60 knots. We call it
60
like
knots.
our best LOD speed. It's like roughly
Okay.
60 knots. Um,
Okay.
the thing in these conditions we fly out here in the Sierra, I mean, a lot of times, you're full stick forward and just you're going VNE, and it's just you're
Just
just
pointing it.
literally you're cooking over the ground. And if you end up on a downwind leg, I've had over 200 knot ground, 250 knot I think ground speed. It's crazy.
God damn.
So so
That's
it's
incredible.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a completely
outrageous.
different ball game, but um, I mean, it's all relative, I mean, paragliding, soaring, it's kind of, mountain bike and road bike. It's all,
Yeah, but man,
um,
I mean, I've never, I've flown, of course, with a ton of sailplanes in the Alps. We do a lot of
yeah,
thermaling with sailplanes,
yeah,
and
yeah,
they come through, and often they're racing from Slovenia all the way through into
yeah,
Germany, and they do everything that we do, but much bigger. They're just going
yeah,
way faster, and
yeah,
it looks. But when I hear the stories, even friends of mine that fly sailplanes that also fly paragliders, they always kind of they don't get that excited about it. They're always kind of, yeah, it's cool. We go farther, but I mean, listening to your stories is just this doesn't seem
yeah.
like normal sailplaning to me. I haven't heard
It's
these kind of stories.
it's a little different. Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of the thermal stuff, and I love it, but
Sure.
it's when I start comparing my big thermal flights to the wave flights, I'm like, I'm working my ass off in the thermal stuff, and it's like, shit, I'm just spending all this time circling, and then you make a big long
Spending half the
run, and
time
then you
going the wrong
circle.
way.
You're like, yeah, exactly. Like, this isn't too efficient, But and that's what I think is pretty cool with the wave stuff. It's just the energy that is out there. It is
Energy.
insane. I mean, there was back in the Sierra Wave project. There's a story of a guy in a P-38, that got in a mountain wave near Bishop, and he shut both motors down. And P-38 climbed to like 30,000 feet with no motors in a P-38.
What?
Yeah,
God,
yeah.
man, that's
So I
incredible.
mean, it's just the
How
energy is just nuts. But
how do you deal with ice? Is that a thing
uh,
for you guys, or is
yeah,
that
we need a lot of canopy icing and stuff like that. But you try to, you don't want to fly in clouds because once you get that wing iced up, it's not coming off, until you get down low. But we have
oh
had issues with icing. But what I do now is I put like an inner layer of plexiglass, so it forms like two layers, and there's like an air pocket between the inner layer of plexiglass and the canopy, and that air pocket gets warm enough where no ice forms, and it works magically. So,
Okay, so you
um,
don't have to worry so much on your. I'm not an airplane guy. Ailerons or whatever, the
yeah,
cables or
yeah,
however their flaps and all that stuff.
yeah. You do. I mean, but you'll only get into that stuff if you fly. If you're high enough and it's cold enough, that won't be an issue. But if you're, let's say, probably in the high teens, or in the mid teens, high teens, and low 20s, and you fly in a cloud, then you'll probably have some issues.
I
Um,
gotta come fly with you, man. That's just this stuff's incredible.
yeah.
This just isn't something we can
Yeah, I
touch.
think the
The
wave stuff would be interesting for you because you guys don't do that. For you to see
just to
the
see
amount of
it.
energy it's mind boggling. And it's not
Uh,
Australian wave, it's not European wave. It's just
our
big
way.
stuff. It's like
Yeah.
Pipeline or YMA or Nazare or something.
Yeah,
it's the
just the
big stuff.
biggest of the big. It's the big
So
stuff. So tell me again. I keep alluding. Sorry, listener, but this is so fascinating. I keep alluding to this big flight. We're going to get there, but tell me about your aircraft because the I have some sailplane friends. When I told them, hey, I'm going to get Gordon on the show. What do I need to know? They were all really excited about your plane. Why is your plane so special?
there are only four in the world that are. And there's nothing special about the sailplane itself. It's a Schemperth Arcus um, glider manufactured in Germany. It's kind of it's the Ferrari for two seaters right now. That's
Okay.
being built. Probably the most popular high performance two seater out there. So the story on my glider is that about 5 years ago, by a guy by the name of Dennis Tito, he spent a week up in the space station went up with the Russians. The guys, adventure, big money.
Yeah.
He ordered four Arcuses from Germany, brought them over here. He was very fascinated with the wave stuff and flying wave. He said, "Okay, I want a jet engine put on them on all four of them." He had that done, and he told the manufacturer, he told Champerth, he said, "Hey, I want you to do some redesigning or figure something out so I can fly at a higher airspeed than the manufactured the placarded airspeeds. So I want basically a faster glider. I want the jet engine. I want auto flaps on it, so I don't have to monkey with the flaps. And then I also want all the instruments coded for night vision goggles, and I want night vision goggles." And so he had four of these gliders made up, brought them over here. His intent was to have two down in Argentina to fly the wave down there. And so he had two in Minden, and I think he shipped a couple down there to Argentina. Did some big flights down there and up here. And then after about 4 years, he goes, "I'm done." And so he sold two
Why?
to,
Why was he done?
I don't know,
Just did
no
it?
idea. I
Check
don't
the
know.
box?
Yeah, I
Okay.
guess.
Oh,
So two were sold to Airbus. So Airbus bought two for doing research and things like that. Those two are still
right.
here in Minden. And
These,
so,
these aren't part of the Per Land project. That's
yeah, well,
totally
yeah, well, no, technically no, but they're owned by they are owned by Airbus. Some of the Perlin guys are using one of the gliders for contrail testing, that kind of stuff. So it's kind
oh
of
wow.
torn up. And then the last two were for sale, and a buddy of mine was doing all this flying with Dennis Tito. And so when those last two, were up for sale about a little over a year ago, I'm like, holy shit, this is the ultimate machine. It's like there's nothing more you could do to sweeten up a glider for high altitude, long distance, fast wave flights. And so I jumped on the newest one of the four. Dennis Tito sold it to me, and then it was game on right off the bat. So so this is the first year I've had it, and doing these big
Really?
flights. So yeah, I've got, I don't know, a bunch of 2,000 kilometer flights, that big one, and then uh, I've got a bunch of 1,000 kilometer flights and thermals, and so um, yeah, it's just been. So I just hit the ground running with this thing, and then I finally got qualled on the
Wow.
NVGs because you got to be signed off with the night vision goggles. So I got a guy to sign me off with that, and then Tim Gardner, who flew with Dennis Tito, he was qualled on the NVGs, and we did some night stuff here because it's a whole different ball game. It's you got to be kind of on your game with flying at night, with the night vision goggles, because everything's field of vision. Your field of view is really narrowed down, so it's just a different ball game. But once you get used to it, it's cool. But anyway, I'm going. This is the machine, and I just like started like going, all right. So the first year, it was pretty much doing. I've landed at night and stuff like that, but then on that June 19th flight, I'm like, okay, I think I feel comfortable enough with these goggles to try at least an overnight flight. I had no intention of flying that far. I just called my partner. I sold half the share to a partner of mine that was a FedEx guy, but not yet rated in gliders. So his first flight in the glider was like, 1,000 kilometer thermal flight with me. The second one was another thousand. Then he did a 2,000 kilometer wave flight.
Wow.
So I called him up on this flight on June 19th. Go, hey man, I said the wave's going to line up. It's not classic. It's going to be an okay wave day. But if you want to try to just do an overnight flight and, or just to fly all night. Because my main goal was to kind of see how I was going to be able to handle the temperatures up at altitude in the 20s at night. Because typically it will get unbearably cold, because I've flown at night, but not for long, not for hours, but it gets wicked cold. So I'm like, let's see what we can do here. And so that was kind of the whole purpose of that flight was just to kind of fly, at night till like noon. And then I texted Matthew Scudder, a Sky Sky. I'm like, hey, Matt, check out the weather. I mean, what do you think? And he goes, yeah, the wave's going to shut down at about 2 o'clock. And I go, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I said, well, can you run
At
the models
night?
all night? No, in the afternoon.
Oh, the
So
afternoon. Okay.
it figured it was going to go from the evening, all night and then until 2 o'clock. So, and it was not a classic day. It was on a scale of 1 to 10, it was probably maybe a 5. So,
Really?
after I'd land, I go, holy shit, on a good day, man, imagine what you can do.
No
But
way. No way. So this is just an average day?
yeah, that was,
What you did?
I probably would not even have flown. It was more of like, hey, let's just go do an
Show
all
your
nighter,
buddy.
because it was June 19th. I go, well, shit, it's warm. It's not wicked cold. It's not winter. I go, it's going to be tame as far as temperatures goes. So Bruce, if you want to go up, we'll go do some NVG work, and so it turned out to be, we went
Do you have
beyond the
some kind of
2 p.m.
heater in there? Do you have any?
No,
Do you have any warm air blowing on you or anything? Oh
no,
God, it's
no,
got to be
just
cold.
because you're just,
So
you're
what do you wrap up in? What are you wearing?
So some guys ask about the electric stuff, electric clothing. The problem with that is if it, first of all, it fails and you don't have the backup, in other words, the thick stuff, it's game over. It's like, oh, we're done,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
might as well land. So I wear a big climbing, expedition suit and then some layers underneath. The problem with that is if you get down low and you end up in a thermal situation, that happened with me.
Ugh.
Like when I flew from here to Steamboat, Colorado, and I ended up over the Wasatch. Wave completely fell apart. It's like now I'm down in thermals and I'm just pouring sweat in the cockpit. It's just like holy shit. They're just trying to stay hydrated. So that can turn into a bad situation if you end up low. But this flight we suited up and it's like, yeah, what time you want to meet? Yeah, it was Father's Day the day before, so my dad was in town, so we had dinner and we just kind of moseyed out to the airport. I'm like, yeah, shit, we still got to put gas in the thing, and so we just took our time and took off at 2:30. And just why 2:30? It's just because it was too. I don't know. It was just 2:30, and I was so unprepared for the flight. Not unprepared, but I didn't really have big ambitions. I mean, so much so that I didn't call Oakland Center for a clearance until we were actually pulling the glider out with the car. And I just called Oakland Center at like 2 in the morning. Like, hey man, I'm going to be launching it in like a half an hour. He goes, you glide in a glider? I go, yeah. He goes, so I got NVGs. And he goes, huh. He goes, I said, I'm looking for a clearance so we can get a clearance in the Class A. He goes, He goes, well, we're not too busy. He goes, that shouldn't be a problem. He goes, let me go to the floor and talk to the controllers and let them know what's your call sign? 189 Delta Tango. It's like, okay, I'll let them know. So as soon as we climbed up and got to 14,000 feet, they gave me an IFR clearance. Said, go have at it. So it was a really windy evening. Winds are blowing. It was almost too much too much crosswind for takeoff. But we did it on NVGs on a pitch black runway, and then
From Minden.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
Minden. And so like I said, we climbed up to about 3,500 AGL or something. And the little funny thing is, your suit. It's just the two of us. I don't have a support team. It's like let's get our shit and throw it in the airplane. So
You didn't have ground. You didn't have a ground person,
no, no,
like a weather person. Okay.
no. We're just what's yeah. It was just supposed
You
to
had
be
low
just
expectations. You're just going to go
no.
cruise.
And I never have
Yeah.
I'm always kind of a one man show anyway. I don't have a big support team. Launching me, run the wings. I just let do my thing and keep it simple. So anyway, Bruce, the guy that was flying with, I put him in the front seat because I'm 6'5" and there's more room in the back seat, and so he never used NVGs. So I had to give him a tutorial on do this, don't do this, make sure that so he was clueless on the NVG. He'd never used them, so So
Wow.
he sits in the front
Jeez.
seat, and I said, just get, and you're putting 10 pounds of shit in a 5 pound bag. It's one of those deals. So I said, just put all your stuff on the ground here. So keep in mind, it's pitch black. So I got the truck running, the lights on, lighting up the fuselage. And so he gets in and he's trying to get squared away, and the wind's blowing and like crazy. And so I start handing him all this shit on his lap, and he's not used to these big flights. He's not used to the glider thing. So I get down to the last few items, and there's a blue cube thing. I go, Bruce, what the fuck is this? He goes, oh, it's a Bluetooth speaker. I thought we could maybe listen to some music and we're up there. I go, are you shitting me? Dude, what do you think this is? Got some Michael Bublé going here or what? So I go, man, we don't have the room for this crap. So, and he had a big, it's like he was, had this 5 pound bag of nuts, and I'm like, dude, what is this? Naked and Afraid or something? So anyway, I get him in the front seat and I get in the back, and so it's kind of chaotic because the winds are blowing. I get the motor started, and we start a takeoff roll, and it's noisy with that jet going and all, and we get to about 20 knots. It's a big enough runway, so we get to about 20 knots and I hear this flapping, bang, 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 bang. And I go, oh shit, what's that? So I, brought the throttle back to idle, stopped the airplane. And I had to figure it was my shoulder harness. Sure enough, the shoulder harness was hanging outside of the canopy and banging on the leading edge of the wing. So I opened the canopy up, and then strapped in. And I just got, first of all, fatigue. I was up all day. I got up at 7 o'clock that morning. So I'm dead tired, and I'm doing this shit with these NVGs. I'm going, what am I doing here? So I got the shoulder strap on. We blast off. We get to about 100 feet. Canopy opens. I'm like, holy shit! And I go, it's one of those things that add up. You go, I probably should not be doing this. And I came that
That's
close.
two.
That's
To get the three,
two.
we got a rule.
Yeah,
If it's
yeah.
three, you got to abort.
I didn't
Time to
have
go
three.
home.
So
There you
I
go.
was
There you
able
go.
to grab the canopy, and we got it shut. I'm like, man, this is not going well, and that had never happened to me, ever.
Yeah.
And I'm going,
Yeah.
maybe this is
Something
not
ain't
just the
right.
right thing. So we motored out and got into the wave and climbed up to 24,000 feet and then headed on south, and then started our journey, 17-hour and 40-minute journey.
So I read your article. I would love. I know you've given other interviews about this, but it was beautiful that you talked about the beauty, even with the NVGs.
Oh,
What does it look like? What do you?
that was
I mean,
wild.
I've seen a bunch of your photos flying these FedEx jets, around the world, and they're amazing. And those of you listening, you got to follow Gordon on Instagram. It's amazing. But I mean, what are you seeing that night? Because it just sounds like I think it just would blow my mind if you see
Yeah,
that.
it's it's wild because we headed south, which was right in the direction where the Milky Way was just hanging over the entire canopy, and so you're sitting there with your dim lit instruments,
Biggest
and
snow year in history. I mean,
you're sitting there with the dim instruments, your vario's going dee, 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 and you're at 20,000 feet, and it's pitch black outside, and because there's nothing between here and Lake Bishop, right? And so it's just magical, and it wasn't cold. And I remember telling Bruce, I said, this is just nuts. We're just looking at the Milky Ways, and it's a shame that everyone doesn't have a chance to look through like legit night vision goggles, because the amount of stars you see is unbelievable. I mean, you're looking at satellites, like left and right shooting stars, poof, poof, all, and here you are in a glider, 20 something thousand feet, clipping along 150 knots over the ground, just, it's like, wow, it was just magic, and you're the only gig in town because there's no one up there, and so
yeah.
it was neat. We get down towards like Mammoth, and everything's going well. And we had an issue getting into the Joshua complex because they didn't open their airspace till 5 in the morning, which I didn't know about. So Oakland Center's going, hey, you need to get below 18,000 feet. I'm like, well, don't you handle the airspace when Joshua's not working it down there in the Owens? And they said, no. They said, you got to get below 18. I go, so what? No one's airliners aren't allowed above 18 in that Joshua complex? He goes, no. It's going, something, this is not right. I go, can you just verify that? He goes, let me check with my supervisor. So we're flipping along. I don't keep in mind, I don't want to get below 18 because you start getting into that rotor zone and,
Yeah, yeah,
and,
yeah.
it's pitch black outside. So he goes, yep, sorry. Supervisor says you got to get below 18. So, we're just kind of a beam Mount Tom. And I started just shoving the nose over, descending and flying out of the wave, flying into the Sierra out of the wave. And then got in the airspace just below 18 and was able to stay out of the bumps, all the way down. And then, made my first turn point down near Inyokarn, hooked back north. And that was
Down
like
to no wait. How far south did you get? Did you get?
just
Are you
about,
going off the Sierras?
we went
Or are you
down
staying in them?
just about south of just about a beam Inyokarn. So,
Oh wow. Okay.
so
Whoa.
south of Highway Reservoir, and, so we turned there, and that's kind of where the wave kind of shuts down because the mountains change direction. That down further south, it takes more of a northwesterly flow. So the wave kind of shut down there. So I flew into quite a big area of dead zone, like sink, sink, sink. And there's a point where you cry out, you go, okay, we got to turn back north, get back into the energy. Because if you fly too much into that sink and then you turn northbound into the sink, now you're losing a lot of altitude, and next thing you know, you're down at 13,000 feet and just getting the crap beat out of you. So
Yeah.
anyway, we turned back around, and then about 4:50, Josh Approach gets on the frequency. Hey, all aircraft, Josh Approach is up, you know, up, up on frequency. So I call him. I said, hey, looking for my stage 2 clearance. He goes, you're cleared stage 2, which gives me clearance up to 29,000 feet. So then I just climbed back up into the low 20s and then worked north. And then right about a beam Mount Whitney is where the NVGs came off. That's where I didn't need them anymore. And that was it.
That's
So
the
we took the
sun's coming
NVGs
up.
off. Yeah, and God,
Sun's
Whitney
coming
was
up at
just
that
all
point.
pink, and it
Oh
was
man.
insane.
What was it?
So
What was it? What were you get? What was it blowing on Whitney? You think?
um, that day the winds aloft it was probably Whitney was probably 40 knots, 50 knots
Okay.
on the peak because we didn't see much up north. North of Reno, we saw about 70 knots,
Okay.
of wind up higher. But that day was fairly mild. Like I said earlier, if you get too strong a wind, it just
Not
doesn't
fun.
bode well. People think, oh, the stronger the wind, the better the wave's going to be. Not necessarily. They could be too strong. I mean, I've had that happen, and that really hampers your movement over the ground too. I've been down near Bishop where it's literally 100. We had 100 knots on the nose all the way to Minden. And you're going, how am I going to make ground speed? You're doing 10 knots over the ground. And you're watching semi trucks freaking blown by you, going up 395 past Mammoth. This is embarrassing. So wave just gets funky.
What you said it was kind of a 5 out of a 10 day, but was this nice wave? I mean, was it nice wave flying? It just wasn't
It
the
wasn't strong. It
or
wasn't. It wasn't.
wasn't
It wasn't a
strong.
light your hair on fire type. Like the Owens
Okay.
Valley. And I told Bruce, I said, man, this is not. This is we're having to change gears here. Where you're like, okay, let's slow up a little bit. You got to slow
Okay.
up. There are bigger dead zones, and this is
You
not.
can't just rock it all day.
I mean, there are
Okay.
days where you're. I mean, like I said, I'll get in the Owens Valley at 18,000 feet and doing 140 knots indicated, and I get down Lone Pine, I'm at 26,000 feet, still doing 140 knots indicated, climbing. It's just like, holy shit! It's almost eerily strong, where you go, this is just scary, you know. Like, is this going to let
Yeah.
me down? So, and there's
Wow.
only so fast you can fly before you start fluttering. So you don't want to get fluttered.
A- And I'm sorry for the ignorance here, but as I understand, wave kind of stacks on that. What makes wave is it stacks on top of itself. Correct? Those of you listening can't see my hands, but it's kind of, it's kind of in a sense folding on top of. That's how you can kind of keep benching up. Correct? Do I
Um,
understand that right?
Now, if you picture like a big rock in a stream, you will see that water, because water works just like air, right? So you'll see that water flow over that rock, and then downstream, if there's no other rock and it's just flat gravel bottom, you'll see those harmonics of wave, and that's exactly how mountain wave sets up. So there will be a line which is typically maybe half mile in width that you can work the leading edge of that. Like, let's say there's lenticular, that lift will be on the leading edge or on the windward side of that lenticular cloud,
Hmm.
downwind of the mountain range. And that's typically, let's just say over the 395, maybe 5 miles east of the spine of the range for the most part. If you know where that wave is, you can really use that to an advantage, whether you're in a power plane or a glider. I mean, I hear guys they're down. You can hear them just getting the shit knocked out of them. They're talking to Joshua, they're in a Cessna or something, going, "Man, I'm reporting severe turbulence," and I'm going, "Man, if this guy just moves upwind, you know, 2 or 3 miles, he can shut his motor down if he wants and fly the whole way, all the way up in glass smooth air."
Wow.
So on the backside of that, on the downwind side of that, that air mass goes up, it's coming down equally as strong. So that's what's killed a lot of people, or first of all, you get the downwash off the Sierra. If you're too close to the range, you'll just get that downslope wind that's just sometimes too strong for an average airplane to even out climb, and then you'll
Hmm.
downwind of that, you'll have the propagation of air mass going up in the primary wave, and then in between the up and the down part of the wave, you'll have the rotor up at kind of the ridgetop level that is very, very violent.
But it won't, I guess maybe I wasn't describing it right, or maybe probably just lack of understanding, but it won't keep. So if you're looking at my hands here, that you get the wave coming off lee side of the Sierras,
Yeah.
that's what you're searching for.
Uh-huh.
But couldn't you just, you're flying north, couldn't you just hang a 90-degree right and keep flying that wave into Nevada, or I mean, just keep going east and keep going with that wave, keep
Well,
going with the harmonics?
if you commit to like a downwind flight, right, which I've done,
Yeah.
I'll climb up in the primary wave here, get up to 28,000 feet, and then go east. Typically those harmonics, they'll start getting lower, like the secondary wave east of the primary wave will be set up lower, and then they'll progressively get lower until it eventually dampens out. So, but yeah, I mean, like going eastbound, what you'll try to do is or pick up different wave systems off of different mountain ranges, like the Toyabis or the Rubies, or these big Pilot Peak is north of Lovelock. These ranges sometimes you'll get good wave off of those too.
So you can get new primary wave off
Exactly. So
the
what you do is
Toyabis and
yeah. So if you go
yeah.
downwind, you basically go downwind. The key is to go just to sit as slow as you can, like minimum sink speed. So you're like at 50 knots. It's very comfortable. So you're not flying, you're not hauling ass, but your ground speed is because you got an 80 knot tailwind. So you're just clipping over the ground and
Yeah.
you're letting the wind kind of do the work. So you just kind of float downwind and then maybe try to fly 100, 150 miles downwind until you get to another big range. And then once you get downwind of that, you kind of feel it. And as you're going downwind, that variable will start going, dee, 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 and like, oh shit. And then you got to turn into the wind like really quickly because your ground speed's so fast. You'll fly out of the wave really quickly. So once you turn into the wind,
Wow.
now you're zero ground speed again, kind of nibbling around, searching for the big stuff. And then once you find it, you stop, you just point into the wind and you got hopefully a zero ground speed and you go up like an elevator back up to 28,000 feet and then turn downwind again for
Just
another
keep doing it.
150. Yeah, exactly. So,
Okay, so the sun's coming up, you're over Whitney. It's beautiful. You've been in the air, what, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It gets pretty light. It gets light at 5, I guess, in
yeah, we've
June,
been
doesn't it? It's
probably,
5:30,
probably three,
6.
3 hours. Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
4 hours, probably 4 hours. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you're
Yeah.
almost halfway through, right?
Just getting
What
going,
time did you
man.
land? You just getting going.
Yeah. We landed, I think after sunset. Yeah. It was 4 hours in a 17 hour. So we still had 13 hours,
God,
13 hours
man.
to go. So
Jeez.
yeah, yeah,
What do you guys do? Are you taking shifts? Are you taking naps, or what? How does this work?
no, I stayed awake the whole time. What I try to do is, I tried to just kind of close my eyes. In the airline world, you kind of learn to kind of take cat naps, and these little cat naps seem to work pretty well. But I turned the volume on the Vario up so I could kind of hear what's going because Bruce wasn't really aware of where to fly.
Yeah.
And you can get yourself in a world of hurt like so quick. If you take your crab angle out, on a south and northbound track, and now next thing you know, you're going down 2,000 feet a minute. You're going, dude, what happened? So I stayed awake the whole time, but I tried to practice. I closed my eyes and I was just listening to the vario. And as soon as I would hear something, like, oh, what happened to the left? I'd wake up, and I never slept. I never got into any REM or anything like that, but, um,
Yeah.
yeah, you just drive, you just run on adrenaline, how that goes. So that's pretty much how it went. But it's funny, the mindset went from, okay, well, we'll, I think we get 1,000 kilometers, no problem, so we're coming back like, that's cool. We got 1,000 kilometers done. And then we got north of Reno and too much moisture, north of Reno, and the wave got really soft. I'm like, okay, here we go south again. And so we ran back south and pretty much ran back down to Inyokern and nothing really, it was nothing really hard, other than the fatigue on the most of these legs. And so we ran south again, and yeah, there was points where you're going, man, I'm dragging, I'm hurting here, I'm tired. So we went back pretty much down the Indian Current, came back north, back up to Reno, and like, okay, shit, if we get a 1,500 kilometers, that'd be cool, So we tagged that, we got that notch, and so we went south again, and now it's like, oh shit, I think we get 2,000 kilometers. That's pretty cool, and that finally became a reality.
What's your average? What's your average speed?
For the entire flight, we average 110 miles an hour. So, so, and on a less than stellar day, it was really, really kind of weird. But so that was a 5 turn point flight, and that's why it's not recognized by the IGC for like a world record, because it was, we used more than 3 turn points, but it's recognized by OLC and then We Glide. So
What was the total distance?
3,058 kilometers. So Klaus had done a 3,008 kilometers. It was at 1,900. That was 1,900 statute, I think. That's what it comes out to. So yeah, so I mean, fast forward everything to the very last leg, it was like, oh shit, I think we can get maybe 3,000 K out of this thing. So I'm like, Bruce, I said, here's the thing. I said, the wave's supposed to shut down. We saw all day that north of Reno, up like near Susanville and that whole area, there was just a shit ton of moisture. You go, there's just no wave up there. And so I figured we would have to stretch our flight. Our final leg we would have to get to like Alturas or Cedarville or somewhere up in that area. And I thought the likelihood of that was going to be so slim, because first of all, there wasn't any wave forecast, and then secondly, there was so much moisture up there. So I told Bruce on our final leg up the Owens Valley, I said, let's just get up. If we can get up to Reno, we'll just kind of feel it out. And if it's shitty, we'll just come back and land. And we will have gotten over 2,500 kilometers, which is still pretty freaking good. So we get up. The last leg, we get up. So now I'm not tired anymore, because I'm like, I'm like, this whole thing could become a reality.
Now you got a goal. Yeah.
Oh, now you're starting to wake up again. See, like you're on a mission now. So we get up to Reno, and it's very, very weak wave, just so spotty. And SkySight once again was just working really well. There were some markers. So I get just west of the Reno airport, and I park in the wave, and I've got 0 ground speed, and I'm like, Bruce, start working the numbers. We need to figure out where we can go. And he goes, okay. I said, I think Alturas or Cedarville will get us over the 3,000 kilometer mark. He goes, yeah, I agree. I said, all right, finding the weather. So we had a Stratus ADS-B antenna and ForeFlight on the iPhone. So he starts getting all the weather for this place. He goes, well, Alturas is calling, 1,500 scattered, 2,200 scattered, 3,000 overcast. And it's like, holy shit, man, there's a lot of weather up there. So, like, what about Cedarville? He goes, no, there's no AWOS for Cedarville. So there's no weather reporting there. So I figured, I remember telling him, I said, Bruce, typically east of that range of Cedarville, you're out in the desert. So it's kind of like all those mountains are holding the weather back. So it will probably be clear in the Cedarville area. So my flight computer was saying, from our altitude, there's no way we had it made. We were way below glide. So I'm like, oh shit, if we can at least manage a lower sink rate, maybe zero sink for a while, then we could maybe kind of get up to glide. So I called Oakland Center. I said, "Hey, is there any chance I can get higher?" He goes, "No, unable, due to traffic or something." I said, "Hey, this," and I actually told him, I said, "This could potentially be the longest glider flight in history. Is there anything we can work at?" And he goes, "Stand by." He goes, "All right, you cleared up to, I forgot what it was, 250 or something." So I just sat in like 1 or 2 knots of lift, just going shit, just climbing so slowly, just milking everything I could. And I was like as high as I can. I said, "All right, we're out of here." So we
What
started.
time of day is it now? Is
It
it
was like
4 or
probably
5?
6 o'clock or
Six
six or
o'clock. Okay.
yeah, it's getting the sun angle's starting to get low, but I'm going get NVGs right. Round
Yeah.
two on the NVGs, so like whatever. And so we started making a run out to the northeast, and I saw a huge layer of undercast, and I went. So we were headed out towards in the direction Alturas from Reno. So we kind of
Okay.
had a not, we had I don't want to say quartering head. When we were tracking about, our heading was about 340, and we're tracking about 030. Because we got about 80
Okay.
knots of wind. So the winds weren't really hurting us too much. But I started kind of heading for this big undercast, which is I couldn't tell how far out in the distance it was and where we would be in relation to the undercast once we got there. But I go, "Bruce, we can't fly. We're not flying through that. We're gonna have to duck underneath that or pull the spoilers out." And I was hoping we didn't have to do that. So I set on this long, kind of efficient glide out towards this undercast in the direction of Alturas. And we finally got to the undercast, and we were maybe 5 miles from it. I go, "This is going to work out perfectly. I can just shove the nose over and we'll slide underneath it. I don't have to pull spoilers out and, kill my glide to Alturas." So I shoved the nose over and I slid underneath this thing, and it got pretty dark. And now there's this freaking snow showers left and right, and I'm just flying in between this stuff, trying not to get ice on the wings. So
God,
I'm just kind of
screw
weaving my
you,
way
man.
through.
You get to do that?
so,
God, that
so
is
I'm weaving through this
awesome.
shit. I'm weaving through this stuff, and I'm going, shit. I said, the fact that we're not doing a straight line, I said, this is hurting us. And so finally, we get to maybe 50 miles south of Alturas, and I can look off in the distance because it was hard to see because of all these snow showers. But I look off in the distance and I see the sun hitting this big patch of ground. I'm like, "Oh shit, that's nice, a big blue hole." So I kind of headed for it, and I got in this big blue hole in this valley, and then I made a left turn directly towards Alturas, and now we're probably maybe 40 miles from Alturas, and I just I came up to a wall of moisture all the way to the ground. I mean, I felt like I was flying on the East Coast or something because of all these different layers of clouds. And I went, shit.
Oh
I
no, it
said,
blew it.
and the computer said, I'll never forget, it said 2,988 kilometers. I was 12 kilometers short of 3,000 K. And you're looking at this wall of moisture going, do
Not
you're kind
gonna
of
make
going,
it.
do I do it? Do I do it? And I go, "Bruce, we can't do it. We'll kill ourselves if we do this. This stuff's going to the ground. And I go, because I don't have pitot heat or anything. So I'm going to lose all my instruments with the icing if I fly into this stuff." And Bruce goes, "Well, it's only 30 miles." I go, "We're done. We can't do it." So I flipped a U-turn. You can see it on the trace. I sent you the WeGlide link, but I
Yeah.
did a complete U-turn. I said, "Put Cedarville in the computer, in the computer." So we got that in the computer and said we're like 4,000 feet low. Plus, our direct line from our point there to Cedarville, we would have had to cross the entire mountain range, which it was co-out. There's no way you could do that. And plus, it was so much cloud cover. So I had to go
Yeah.
south first, and then go to the south end of that range over this big high plateau. So before I could start going east out towards the desert and to where the Cedarville
Jeez,
Valley is.
dude.
So now my computer is giving me my straight line computation, but I'm having to go make this big shuck and jive around the south end of this range. So all my numbers are out to lunch. So I'm going, so I end up over this big plateau, and I'm just kind of milking it, going, "Holy shit, I don't know if I'm going to get over the ridge here, because we had like 15 miles to go, and I'm just a couple thousand feet over this plateau, and I'm just kind of milking it eastbound, and I went, "Oh shit!" And there was a field down there, like a farmer field. And keep in mind, I've got the engine, but will it's, is it going to start? I don't know. You can't rely on it because you have to, first of all, you have to
Right.
extend it, then you have to start it, and is it even going to start? So you
Okay.
can't really rely on that. But I see a farm field out there, and once we got a beam, I go, there's no way we could have landed there. It was a pipe dream, but I ended up seeing when I saw the edge of the ridge, and I kind of just eyeball, I said, oh, I think we're going to make it. So we were able to cross over that ridge. And then once the sky started opening up a little bit more, and then I saw like a cumulus cloud over the valley about 20 miles south of Cedarville. My computer still said 2,988 kilometers. So and I was pissed. I go, here I'm going all this way east, but I'm not adding miles, right?
I
Because I had to go
kinda
north.
oh no.
So I'm going, shit. So I go, Bruce, I'm going to head for that cloud. And once I was able to see it, I go, shit, that's a rotor cumulus. That's like a rotor Q cloud. That was associated with wave. And then I could see some ragged like wave that was setting up in the valley there. I went, shit, I think I can, if I get underneath this cloud, I can work. So I get underneath this cloud and I'm maybe 2,500 AGL. And I still can't make Cedarville right, but there's a dry lake I can land on, which was wet. The glider would have been there for days, but I ended up circling underneath this thing, and there's 1 knot, 2 knot, 3 knots left. Also, and I get up and then I push west of it into wave, and it goes laminar, and all of a sudden the barrier just goes dee 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 dee, and I
No
started pressing north, and the
way.
computer freaking finally numbers matched up for Cedarville and said you got it made. And I'm like, holy shit. So I ran north in that wave on the east side of that Cedarville range. I think
Yeah.
of the name of the range, and I shot right over Cedarville. I go, that's, by then it was already 3,030 kilometers or whatever, and went all the way north until I ran into freaking snow showers again. And then that's where the distance was calculated all the way to that northern point. And then I turned south and came to Cedarville and landed, and we had 3,058 kilometers in bags. So we landed, and cops show up, and like, what the hell are these guys doing here? The guy's on the phone going, yeah, that's 189 Delta Tango. I confirm he's landed at Cedarville. And I go, what was he? Goes, that was the FAA calling because they're wondering what they thought you were landing at Alturas, because that was the last thing I told them. I was landing at Alturas, and you didn't. So the cops went to Alturas first. They didn't see an airplane. This guy planted in the mountains somewhere. So they go, shit, let's try Cedarville. So like, dude, can you help us push a glider out of the way? So we get out of this glider. We tie it down. I had some tie down rope and tied it down on the line. And, now it starts kind of raining and drizzling. And the guys tried to hook us up with a motel, and there was nothing around. Everything was, but now it's dark. And so we showed up in these big, goofy suits on, these expedition suits. Finally, he got some lady at the motel to open the door. She goes, yeah, I got one room left. And so we got a room, and then Bruce found some people, a few doors down. They had a bottle of scotch, and he bought a bottle of scotch from them. He just got hammered that day. It was a good time. We didn't sleep, obviously, because you're just
I
fired
was gonna
up.
say, there's no way you slept,
No,
even as exhausted as you were. You must have been fired
that was
up. That's
wild. Yeah.
amazing.
So,
I don't
yeah.
understand the record thing. So it was the longest flight that's ever happened in a sailplane, but it's not a record because it can only be 3 points. Is that right? Do I
Yeah,
have
that's
that
a
right?
max. That's a max that the IGC will. So that's the maximum number of turn points that the IGC recognizes as three. So it's unofficially
Gotcha.
the longest. Klaus Ullmann still has the world record for a three turn point, which is 3,008 kilometers. So
Okay.
so
Gotcha.
I've got. I think that's very doable out of here. So I've got
I was gonna say if
something
you had a
lined up for.
5 out of a 10 day, yeah,
Hmm.
that's insane.
Yeah.
You're
So I
in the
think
air for how long? 17, how much?
40 minutes. Yeah,
17,
17
almost
hours, 40
18
minutes.
hours.
So
All
yeah,
night, all
Um,
day,
So yeah,
day
it's
and
just
night.
it kind of gets you fired up and do more of this, and then I think we can do some big, massive triangles in the wave. Like 1,500 kilometer, almost 2,000 kilometer triangle flight. Run from maybe here down to Inyokern and out towards Ely, and then back up towards Minden up to Susanville, and then so Inyokern your first turn point, Ely's your second, and then Susanville would be there like your third turn point, and
And are you
it's like
working, are you working with Rammy? Are you working with a whole bunch of other Gary down in Albuquerque? Are you
no,
guys all
no.
kind of all working together, or this is just your
No,
gig?
it's just my gig, because not like I said,
Wow.
not too many people are. are into this. I mean, some people are starting to get a little more interested in it, intrigued with it, with the wave stuff, but not to the extent that, they just, most guys just aren't into that, I mean, most guys go, well, there's no way I could sit in a freaking cockpit that long, and they're just
Right.
not, they just don't
Right.
want to. I'm not saying they couldn't,
Yeah.
it's just they don't have the
Yeah.
desire or will to. And
Right.
then, and
Different
I
gig.
get it. That's fine, and it's just
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. It's just like they want to go to bed and sleep at night. I get it. But there's stuff that can be done, try it, and we got the weather here to do it, take
Yeah.
advantage of it. So,
Right.
but,
How would you do it with the three turn point thing? I mean, if you really, if you,
so,
what's your vision now? What do
well,
you
I think
do with this
what's
now?
very doable is so the problem we have here in the Sierra with waiver kind of in this area is that we're limited with north and south wise with wave because you get on the southern end of this wave area, it starts to get too soft and the wave shuts down. If you get too far north, typically will run into moisture. You start getting to that
Oh,
jet axis. So whereas like Argentina, they have a much longer area of
for that
mountains,
whole
where they can
continent.
run further north and south and that kind of thing. But I think
Gotcha.
like with a three turn point, like Klaus Ullmann's thing would be take off here, go down to Inyokern, up to Susanville, back down to Inyokern, and then you'd land up in, north of Casper, Wyoming, which is, which is very, very, very doable. So if you take off here, like at 10 o'clock at night, and you get these legs done at night in a comfortable area geographic because we're used to this area and we're used to the wave working in this area and do all that stuff during the night hours, and then as the sun comes up, you fly come up to Minden and then you start heading off to the northeast like what I do going downwind, and then
And
you end up on a downwind flight, where you got that massive tailwind, and if you end up near like the Casper area, that would put you over the 3,000 kilometer mark. So,
in the sailplane community, is there any poo pooing? Oh no, but these guys are doing it at night, or is there any
um,
friction there, or is this just the whole
that's a good
community's going,
question.
this is badass, this is really cool?
Right now, I think it's in the badass,
Yeah,
category. I don't know where
cool.
it's going to go in the future. And what I tell everyone is like, whether this is a record, I can give a rat's ass. It's more of, you're opening up some boundaries, you're exploring new areas, and you're utilizing technology and utilizing an air mass, whether it's working day and night, it doesn't matter, for a guy to go, well,
Right.
he's doing it at nighttime. Well, sure, I'm not doing anything illegal. And if they say, well, you
Yeah.
can't see a lot of the Europeans, the Germans, they cannot, even if they have a glider that's equipped for night flight, they cannot fly a glider there at night. So all the Europeans
Right.
think that my flight was not a record because I did it, a certain number of hours at night. And they don't have that luxury that we have. And I even emailed IGC, the IGC folks about it. And the guy goes, oh no, he goes, as long as you comply with the rules of your country, you're legal to do whatever. So because
Mm,
your thing at night, that wouldn't invalidate your flight. He goes, the fact that you use more than three turn points does.
yeah.
So I mean, I could
Right.
have used
Okay.
three, you know. So anyway, that's where we are with that whole thing. But people are very fascinated. I think the Germans, I did a few test flights at night, and I just posted it, and just people went nuts. Like, well, what the hell? This guy's flying a glider. Before this 3,000 kilometer flight even came about, the Germans were calling me asking for interviews to write articles just about night flight, in a glider with night vision
Yeah.
goggles because they were so intrigued by that. I'm like, holy shit, this is pretty wild. This is like James Bond stuff. And so,
It is James Bond stuff.
so
Since I've been following you and watching your pictures and videos, it's just fully James Bond, man. You're 007 out there. It's awesome.
it's pretty cool. So it's neat that I haven't gotten any friction at all. I haven't heard
Good.
anything negative. Whether social media or just word of mouth. I haven't heard anything like, "Oh, this guy's cheating," or I mean, there's listen,
Cool.
I'm not breaking any rules. I'm doing everything, and whether people like it or not, I'm just going to keep doing. I think it's cool, and I think shit,
Yeah,
the air
it's
mass is
cool.
going up at night. Use it, and that's what I'm doing. And
Yeah.
I've got luckily have the capability to do that. So, but when it with the record thing, I don't know if there's nothing. I mean, if there's a record done, I know people need to start looking, because Klaus Oman, I think he saw this nighttime stuff, and I think he's starting to, you know,
Sniff it
there's
out.
probably some stuff that he's probably trying to work on. Because I sold Dennis Tito's other Arcus, and I got a call from a guy down in Argentina. The guy was, like, I said, what do you want to do with the glider? He goes, well, Klaus Oman, he wants me to buy it. So it's like, so, so
I mean,
that's,
what he's doing over there
oh,
over
it's
the
cool.
med and stuff is
Yeah.
just so cool.
Yeah. Have you
Eh,
heard of Baptiste Innocent, the French guy?
no,
He was doing that stuff over the Med. He did some big flights, big triangle flights where he launched from the Alps and then crossed over to what was the island down there in the Med, and then jumped off.
Socorro.
Then jumped off downwind into Croatia, and then flew ridge and thermal, left back to complete
I did
triangle.
hear
Pretty
about
wild.
that. Sorry, I was confusing him with Klaus. But yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah,
remarkable. It's
yeah,
just so cool that the Red Bull X Alps. It takes us 12 days to do that whole range, and you guys do it in a day. It's
yeah. But
really
it's
really
just
awesome.
no. I think what you guys are, that's pretty cool. I'm just sitting, I'm putting my ass in the seat for 17 hours. You guys are walking, and doing all this crap. You
Oh
know.
yeah, it's vicious. It's
Um,
vicious, but it super inspiring. I really appreciate what you're pressing into because it's
yeah, it's new
it
boundaries.
feels kind of Apollo-ish, man. Yeah, I mean
Yeah, yeah,
it feels that you're opening new lines, which
right.
is kind of what this thing's been about for a long time. We're trying to find lines that are cool,
Hmm.
that are aesthetic, and
Yeah, yeah.
that are pushing the boundaries. One final question here, just because we don't think like you do as pilots when it comes to landing, because we can land anywhere.
Hmm.
I know that's not the case with sailplanes, but do you get when you've flown as long as you have and you have the experience that you have, does your threshold for safety keep dropping because you're I've got the experience. I could figure this out. I'm going for this big distance, or do you really just have to keep a really reason? I mean, it sounds like you kind of the margin got a little soft there at the end of that your big one, but you know, eh,
Yeah, it it does. I think you have to know your own limits. Now on that big flight, I could have just said, well, I don't want to get my 3,000 kilometers, push right into the moisture, and gone for Alturas, and probably probably not been talking to you right now. But I
mm,
think there's a point where you do get to that limit, and it's funny because that flight, you get to that point, and everyone that's done these big things, sometimes you get to that point, you go, do I cross that line? If I cross it, I might be
mm,
paying dearly for this. Is this worth it? And I think my experience in the military and the airlines, there's a safety aspect that you put in there. You go, this is nothing's worth this. It's
not
ridiculous.
going
I
over
don't
that
want to
line.
be the guy that go, what was the guy? That guy was an idiot. What was he thinking?
Yeah,
So I mean, there's a certain, I don't want to say I'm not reckless by any means, but I always have an out. If as long as you have an out, like, okay, well, I can land at that field because Minden's got too big of a crosswind. I'll go downwind. I'll land in Hawthorne into the wind on the runway.
mm,
Then that's a good. You have to have those options. You have to have those alternatives. And if you don't have an out, then it's kind of foolish flying. It's just like flying a glider and just leaving an area of lift and going, okay, I'm going to go for that cloud. And if there's no lift there, there's no place to land. I'm breaking the glider. That to me, that's foolish. I never fly that way. Even if
yeah,
I have an engine, because
yeah.
I don't rely on that engine to start, it might not start. So
Gotcha.
I think I'm fairly safe in my thinking. You're definitely taking more risk, doing that type of flying than than thermal flying because of the elements you're dealing with. That's just the
Sure.
nature of the beast. It's just like climbing K2 versus some smaller peak. There's just certain amounts of
Yeah.
elements of risk you have to put up with. But
Sure.
the safest possible way you can do it. That's the way to do it. So yeah, we got to get you down here. I think it'll.
Gordon, I'm
It'll be
coming,
cool.
man.
It'll be cool.
If you're sincere about the offer, you just
I
give me a
really am.
shout. I will come. This has been amazing. Thank you for your time. I told you in the
You're welcome.
beginning we were going to go for about an hour. We're getting close to 2, so excellent. The whiskey's been delicious. You've
That's
been
right.
incredibly entertaining, and thank you, sir. And I'll be watching you, and I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you, Gavin. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, bud. Nice talking to you.
If you find the Cloud-Based Mayhem valuable, you can support it in a lot of different ways. You can give us a rating on iTunes or Stitcher, or however you get your podcast. That goes a long ways and helps spread the word. You can blog about it on your own website or share it on social media. You can talk about it on the way up to launch with your pilot friends. I know a lot of interesting conversations have happened that way. And of course, you can support us financially. This show does take a lot of time, a lot of editing, a lot of storage and music and all kinds of behind the scenes cost. So if you can support us financially, all we've ever asked for is $1 a show. And you can do that through a one-time donation through PayPal, or you can set up a subscription service that charges you for each show that comes out. We put a new show out every 2 weeks. So for example, if you did $1 a show and every 2 weeks, it'd be about $25 a year. So way cheaper than a magazine subscription, and it makes all of this possible. I do not want to fund this show with advertising or sponsors. We get asked about that pretty frequently, but for a whole bunch of different reasons, which I've said many times on the show, I don't want to do that. I don't like having that stuff at the front of the show. And I also want you to know that these are authentic conversations with real people, and these are just our opinions, but our opinions are not being skewed by sponsors or advertising dollars. I think that's a pretty toxic business model. So I hope you dig that. You can support us. If you go to cloudbasedmayhem.com, you can find the places to support. You can do it through patreon.com/cloudbasedmayhem. If you want a recurring subscription, you can also do that directly through the website. We've tried to make it really easy, and that will give you access to all the bonus material, little video casts that we do, and extra little nuggets that we find in conversations that don't make it into the main show, but we feel like you should hear. We don't put any of that behind a paywall. If you can't afford to support us, then just let me know and I'll set you up with an account. Of course, that'll be lifetime, and hopefully you're being in a position someday to be able to support us. But you'll find all that on the website. All of you who have supported us or even joined our newsletter or bought Cloud-Based Mayhem merchandise, t-shirts or hats or anything, you should be all set up. You should have an account, and you should be able to access all that bonus material now. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate your support, and we'll see you on the next show. Thank you.